Alrighty, Pop. Should we just do that again, just for the hell of it, or move on?
Yeah, we should do it.
We can do it one more time.
I think we figured a few things out in message. I don't remember what they are.
What was good about the Crash Bash was that we got a good dynamic downshift for the first verse.
Yeah.
So the intro being loud was kind of good. I mean,
But if it's just loud for your drum solo,
yeah.
then the riff is
Yeah, absolutely.
It's little. Let's try that. I meant small, right there. Go really small there. Yeah, let's try it.
It started out miserable, which took us all by surprise. We were all, I think, expecting it to be a lot easier than it was.
So at the end of the chorus, what I'm hoping to hear is the bass drum on 2, and that's the main thing. So, bow, bow.
This is the coda.
Yeah.
Okay, so you don't want it to continue anymore.
Well,
now you want something different.
You know, it's hard to, without writing all down. All I want is the bass drum. That's what I want to hear on 2.
So I have to sort of limit my, band leader kind of mentality. For a start, I'm now in a band where I can't fire anybody. I can't fire anybody, So I'd better negotiate. I'd better argue my case. I'd have to, present things and be diplomatic for a change. I mean, you have to ask the other two how they feel about it.
What's your feeling about your co-workers and your bandmates, right?
I hate them both,
Yeah.
So that's it. Next question.
Okay.
It's become almost a cliche about, our relationship. Oh, those guys hate each other. I hope they're not going to stab each other in the throat tonight, It's a half-truth.
That's going to be fucking cover of Modern Drummer magazine is going to be fucking devoted to that drum fill, you cunt.
It's amazing that you could play that
very
drum
good.
fill in 9 beats.
Right? Uh-huh.
It's
Yeah.
fantastic.
Just because you get lost, just because it's a little confusing for the fucking bass playing element. Okay?
It's going so well, too.
It was amazing when we got back here in this room how, where's that jugular? Ah!
Can I tell you something, Andrew?
Yeah.
I love you.
I love you too, Sting.
But if you sing unison with somebody, the best way of getting in unison is to watch their mouth.
All right, I'm not looking at you that
I know
way,
you're
no,
not.
but,
When we're on stage, you're going to see that. But as we're together like this, it's a good opportunity to actually start singing together.
singing in tune, too.
You were singing in tune, but you weren't singing with me.
We're making that effort to communicate in a way that will hold us together so we can get through these very rough time of refashioning our musical bond.
See, if we can get through this, it's much better than paying a shrink, $400 an hour in New York.
Okay.
That was the end.
Okay. Time for Tonto's expanding headband.
Yeah, for some
Why?
of us, the 60s never left.
Why are you wearing that?
Here, sir.
Sweat, mate. Because somebody, look at you cool as a cucumber on your stool. There's somebody's working here.
I'm sweating.
Okay.
I'm thinking about wearing that on stage.
Not for the Grammys, but for 2 hours of this shit. Yeah.
I think we need to have a discussion about that.
This will be discussed.
This is kind of surreal. You with that shit on your head,
You'd have
casting
to,
aspersions on my
it's all
headband.
fine, but you will have to have a discussion
What
with
did you
our.
say?
You'll have to have a discussion with our personal fashion designer.
Now, since you mention it, he fucking loves the headband.
What about a tennis racket with that?
In fact, why don't we just play tennis?
Jeff,
What do we have to
tennis
get up here with these fucking things for? We could be out there
Come after you with it.
on the court.
It's a marriage, and it's like any marriage, you work at it, and we've had a history of working at it.
There's a little moment where it goes dun 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 dun, and I'd love to. It's very subtle, doesn't rob the integrity of the song, and I have no fucking idea where it is or what it is, but it might reveal itself if we play.
Go on
it.
then. Every move that you make, and every vow you break, every smile you fake, every claim you stage, I'll be watching you. Okay, right there is where you're talking about.
Yes.
All right. I'll give you that if you take the flams out.
Take the flams out.
Blah.
Just a,
Yeah. It's a deal.
it's a deal.
So much more civilized than these.
We're spending about 8 hours a day practicing at the moment.
Slowly we're building up to speed. At the moment we're up to, we can get through about 10 or 12 songs in a day, but we need to be able to get through 24 songs in about 2 hours.
We get a glimpse of all this beautiful view on our way to and from rehearsal. You know, we feed ourselves occasionally, but basically we spend all day in that rehearsal room and don't do really much of anything else but rehearse Police songs.
I mean, in a sense, we don't really need to learn these songs. We've played them millions of times. Coming here to Tuscany to rehearse was more a process of, I think, sort of developing a group psyche. You become tight and you become sort of loose in the way you can play together at the same time. And I think that was really the overall objective.
Something crawls on the side of a dark Scottish lake.
It's going very well. We find that after we have, you know, it all goes very well, goes very well, goes very well, and everyone's being very nice, but everyone's being very nice. Then there's another screaming match, and then it's blissful, and that's the cycle.
Very good.
It's sounding so much better.
Yeah, it sounds really crisp now.
Well, it is tea time in 5 minutes.
And there's a certain amount of, negotiation and toing and froing, whatever, but generally we are progressing and it's moving ahead.
But it does come back to, every day, how do you relate? How do you relate? Can you talk? Can you get along?
So would you punch me on the other side of my face?
I realized that which ear was that?
This one. No,
This
it was my jaw.
I need them both because they're so valuable.
No, it's not my ear.
Because they hear
But do I look funny?
everything.
Do I look funny?
Well, you've always looked kind of funny.
Fuck you.
Sting and I have this polar relationship where we're either screaming at each other or we're hugging and kissing, and in between, stability just feels kind of strange, just to be having a normal conversation. I don't think we ever have normal conversations.
We're having steak tonight.
No, we're having fights.
Yes. This is a bit foolhardy. Are we insured for this?
We get along great, but mostly it's one extreme or another, because we really appreciate each other, but we drive each other nuts. My short Neanderthal attention span begins to expire on the 4th hour. And by the way, never mind. Never mind how on is part of the chorus here and part of the coda there, but we won't get into it.
Well, the word on doesn't make any sense on its own. It makes sense when you
Unless it's part of the coda.
No, we stay the same.
General Bradley, 4 letters.
Cunt.
Excellent.
Ultimately, the emotional thing in the band is that it's quite chaotic. I would prefer if music was like a game of chess. You go there, and it's all kind of organized. I like that. I like control. This is more like a game of football where somebody just kicks the ball up in the air and you don't know where it's going to go.
All of us have had to give up a lot of control over the music. It's not our personal property anymore. The other thing is that you have to submit to being controlled. I have to put up with the bass player saying to me, can you do that on the hi-hat? What? How long have you been playing? You have an opinion about... Sure I can, of course I can. It'll be an honor. Thanks for the idea.
I mean, it is sort of a group process, and I think most bands worth their salt go through that. There's a certain amount of tension, tugging to and fro, until we arrive at this place where everybody feels like he is authentically being himself, and yet he's part of the team as well.
Here we go,
The thing about going out now, all these years later, that immediately becomes a challenge because we've got to prove it.
It has to live up to the hoopla that we've caused by reforming them. Tickets are flying out the window against anybody's expectations. And so we have to just live up to that. You've got to be really good.
There's almost a rivalry of who's going to contribute the most to making the band better than it ever was before, you know? All three of us are out there eating our vitamins, doing our push-ups, just generally stepping up to the plate.
There's a great deal of joy in singing, that freedom you have to soar. When you do hit those notes, it's glorious, and you see the effect it has on people.
I won't say, 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 I won't say you with another boy.
A lot of the time, I'm in a kind of ecstasy.
They're really with you and pushing you, then you start to transcend everything. It becomes like one organism, the band and the audience. And I think the good energy that you get from the audience, you know, night after night, starts to wash through, and then we start to feel like we're all together.
I feel there's a rightness to it, a chemistry between the individual members of the group, which is hard to kind of define. Play well. It's just something happens and people respond to it.
It's like having a conversation is when you sort of know what someone's going to say before they say it, and you're with them.
I'm in the lyric, and not so much the meaning of the lyric, but the rhythm and the melody of the lyric, so that I can get out of its way, so that I can be an envelope around it.
It's absolute focus and attention to what you're doing. I don't let my mind wander from that. So it is a kind of trance, but it's a very conscious and focused trance.
When you get in it together, it's like together you channel this feeling. It's almost shamanic, I suppose. It becomes tribal.
So put on the red light, Roxanne. You don't have to put on the red light. Put on the red light.
I can't stand there with all that energy and feel upset about anything. It sort of tends to minimize problems in life.
All three of us have pulled ourselves together and given it up. And the more that we've given it up, the better the music has become.
It's clear that something is going on that you couldn't really plan for. Somehow it works. It's like a machine that works. Sort of cockeyed machine.